Hey there folks, welcome to the channel. My name is Eric and today we're talking about the gear that I use when it comes to making salami. And today's piece of equipment is quite possibly the cheapest thing that you can buy that will actually improve the quality of your salami. I'm talking about going from making mediocre salami to rock star charcuterie, stuff that belongs on the cover of magazines. The piece of equipment that we're talking about is called a thermohygrometer, and truth be told, I have been wanting to make this video for quite some time. Now, about 4 years ago, I was gifted a thermohygrometer from one of our top patrons. His name is Matthew G. The thermohygrometer that he gave me was from a company called Govee. Now, in full disclosure, I have been given lots of thermohygrometers from lots of different companies, Inkbird, and anyway, 5 or 6, and they all wanted video reviews and they all wanted me to endorse their product. And at the end of the day, I did not feel comfortable endorsing any of those products because I have found everything that I was looking for in this one particular brand. The data that this provides and the ease of use and the capability and functions that it has actually led to me making better salami. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but a lot of folks out there say, hey, how do you make such great looking salami and picture perfect salami? A lot of it comes down to this one particular device. Let me explain. A thermohygrometer reads the temperature in the air and the humidity in the air. And as you all know, if you're into making, whole muscle charcuterie or salami, which tends to be a little more finicky, the temperature and the humidity of your drying chamber is absolutely critical. Even if you're not using a drying chamber and you're in a basement, the temperature and the humidity is still absolutely critical. And what a thermohygrometer does is it gives you real-time data that allows you to know what's going on in the area that your charcuterie is drying at all times. Why that is so important is because it allows you to make micro adjustments inside your chamber to really dial it in. And we're going to have a separate video on how to dial in your DIY chamber using the Govee thermohygrometer. And we're going to have a video on how to dial in your sausage maker chamber using the same thermohygrometer. Because here's the reality, and I'm going to be totally straight with you. You may have a temperature controller from Johnson, Auber, from Inkbird, it really doesn't matter, and you set it to 55 Fahrenheit or 13 Celsius, all right? That's the ideal temperature for drying your charcuterie. And you may have a humidity controller for your DIY chamber that you've set to, let's say, 80%, like I do in my case. You close that off and you think all is good. But all is not good because every single chamber is totally different. Not only the build of the chamber, the efficiency of the chamber, whether or not the outside environment is affecting the inside parameters. Where you live in the world, is it hot, is it cold, what time of year it is? All of these conditions affect what's going on inside of the chamber. And although you may have your controllers set to 55 and 80, what's actually going on in your chamber may be something completely different. And that's why having a hygrothermometer is incredibly important, because this little device allows you to monitor what's going on inside the chamber, regardless of what your controllers are set at. And that information gives you the opportunity to make micro adjustments so that you can truly dial in your chamber. The device is incredibly simple. Basically, it's just this little piece right here. It operates on 3 AAA batteries right there in the back, and you can either place it on a stand like so, or you can glue it to a door or a wall or something like that. If you want to kind of glue it like that, stick it on the side of your chamber. What I personally recommend is if you have some sort of shelf that your charcuterie is hanging from, I would just place it directly on top of that shelf, just like that, because that's the area that you really want to monitor. You don't want to put this directly in front of a humidifier, directly in front of a dehumidifier. You don't necessarily want to put it directly on the door that opens and closes. Put it kind of in the center of your unit, as close to your charcuterie as possible. At least that's what I would recommend. You can always move it around depending on your circumstance. All right, enough about the device. Let me show you the information that this provides on the app itself. So let's go ahead and open up the app, and we're going to click Salami Chamber number 1. That's the DIY chamber that I built many years ago. Let's go ahead and click that. And the opening screen kind of gives you what's happening in the last hour. But notice at the top, you got day, week, month, year. You can easily click any one of those buttons, and that day gives you a 24-hour period. The week gives you a 7-day period, so on and so forth. And when we click week, you can kind of get a better idea of what's going on. Now, notice those peaks that go way to the top on the temperature. That was caused by a power outage. And so when I'm looking at this data, I can say, wow, something happened between Sunday and Monday that caused a spike for maybe a couple hours. That was a power outage that we had. Same thing between Monday and Tuesday. Same thing between Thursday and Friday. And so all of those spikes are power outages. When you open the screen up a little bit, you can get a little bit closer to that data. Here we go. You can see how you have spikes and then dips that happen all throughout the day. What we're looking at is when the compressor kicks on. Notice your top peaks, right? That's when the compressor kicks on. At the very top of that peak, your temperature will slowly start to fall. And then when the compressor kicks off, that's the very bottom, your temperature will slowly start to rise naturally. And that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the compressor kicking on and off as it's trying to maintain that temperature. Notice in this chamber right here, we have an average temperature of 55.8, which is exactly what I'm looking for. That is absolutely perfect. And if we continue that line forward, notice that 55.8, we've got a very steady average temperature, absolutely beautiful. Oh, look, we had a power outage. That kind of threw it out of whack for a minute, but as soon as we get past that power outage, what do we have? 55.8 all the way to present. That line is where we're at right now. And when you look at the humidity, right here it says 79.5% average. That's absolutely beautiful. I have it set for 80%. My swing up is 82.1, so that's a really tight, nice swing. It doesn't peak up into the 89s, 90s. And my swing down is 74.4. So we've got a nice tight swing on the humidity. And notice that the dips and the peaks of the temperature directly correlate to the dips and the peaks on the humidity. Every time the compressor kicks on, the humidity plummets. Once the compressor kicks off, that humidity gets kicked back up because your humidifier is now running. And in essence, we are now going to use this device to control what's going on inside of our chamber. We're taking the control away from our temperature and humidity controllers, and we're putting it in the hands of this hygrothermometer because this is actually measuring what's going on in the chamber real time. And based off of this data, we can now make those fine-tune micro adjustments to really dial it in. As you can see right here, this chamber is pretty dialed in. Average 55.7, 55.8, humidity 79.4. I couldn't ask for better conditions to dry my charcuterie. Now, if you get into the settings page by hitting the cog icon in the top right-hand corner, you will immediately come to the settings of that particular device. Now, first one is temperature alarm. In this case, I've got it set to where if the temperature falls below 44 Fahrenheit or above 65 Fahrenheit, it sends me a warning. Also, same thing with the humidity. If the humidity ever gets below 60%, or let's put 90%. There we go. If it gets above 90%, it sends me an alert. The calibration feature is absolutely critical, and in the next video, I'll actually show you how to calibrate this device so that it is on point, but you can adjust the calibration for the temperature and the humidity, and then of course at the very bottom you can delete the data, you can upgrade it, and you can do all this stuff, or you can delete the device altogether. So as you can see, it's a very simple device that brings a lot of power in the data, and it's this data that allows you to take control of what's going on inside your chamber. When it comes to salami making, I would say that about 20% of the success of your salami comes down to proper technique, how it's ground, how it's mixed, the type of spices that you use, things like that. But 80% of the success of your salami, whether you end up making a poor quality or mediocre salami versus an extraordinarily exceptional salami, comes down to the drying conditions. The conditions inside your chamber or inside your basement is going to ultimately determine the success or failure of your salami. And by having a thermohygrometer, you are more likely to end up producing higher quality charcuterie simply because you are controlling the atmosphere in which it's drying a lot more efficiently. I recommend the one from Govee, although this one was given to me as a gift. I still have it. I've actually bought 4 more because I personally think that having 2 thermohygrometers inside your chamber. Acts as a checks and balances, and so you can kind of keep everything true when it comes to the information, but having at least one is a step in the right direction. So if you want any information on the Govee thermohygrometer, the one we use in both of our chambers, I'll put a link to their Amazon page in the description box below. They do make several models. Some are more expensive than others. You know, they have Wi-Fi capability and things like that. This particular one is actually super simple. It's Bluetooth, and although I have to be in the vicinity of the area to access the data, for what I need it for, it's absolutely perfect. I think it's less than 20 bucks, and it'll be the best 20 bucks that you've ever spent for the craft of charcuterie. Thanks a lot for watching this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. And if you're new to charcuterie, if you're new to salami making, you're definitely going to want to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, because we have got all kinds of tips and tricks and new videos on the horizon to help you become a better salumist. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.